Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Chattārimāni bhikkave upadānāni katamāni chattari. Kāmupadānaṁ ditthupādānaṁ Sīlabbata upadānaṁ attavāda upadānaṁ tīti. Dear friends in Dhamma, yesterday actually we discussed three categories, three forms of clinging, grasping, and I am going to directly get on to the fourth one. So that is what we call as attavāda upadāna. So as we discuss upadāna, clinging, grasping, holding on to, strongly attaching. So these are different forms how our mind behaves. So if we step back and watch our mind, constantly there is some kind of an occupation. There is some sort of a desire. There is some sort of an attachment. There is some sort of a holding. There is some sort of a grasping. So this is the nature of the mind. And it does not stop there, so it continues. Again and again it continues. This grasping causes to have a different form, to have an excited state. You feel like you are living, you feel like you are being uplifted, you are living in a different state. You are enjoying a particular state. So you are taken a birth into a particular state. That is what we call as bhava. Upadana paccaya bhava. So basically when grasping is present, it continues and you are being shifted from your present moment and you are shifted to another artificial state of mind and you are there. And you are maybe enjoying that. You are clung to that, born to that, maybe enjoying that. But the problem is, it will end, and ultimately it go through all the different forms of unsatisfaction and different forms of dukkha, suffering. So in one sutta, Buddha mentioned, so this Nandi, what we call as delight. So whenever we see something, we feel delight, we feel happy, we feel sort of satisfied. So then automatically we being attracted to that. So as a result of that, so we lose the present moment. And we are there. And we are born to a new experience. So we are living in that experience, enjoying that experience. So we have lost the typical, say, simple, relaxed, unburdened state of mind. Instead of now we have an excited state of mind, a burdened state of mind, an artificial state of mind, a created state of mind. Three forms of such clinging. One thing is called Kāmupadāna, how we are being driven by various sensual desires. We have various desires to forms, sounds, smells, taste, tangibles, and even to various ideas. We are driven by that, we are being pulled to that, attracted to that. We are then born to that state and we are living in a different world. We lost the present moment. And then we discussed the Upadana, how our wrong perversions leading us to too much thinking in the wrong pattern, and that wrong way of thinking ultimately putting us into a kind of a fixed view, wrong view, and it's very difficult to come out of that. We are strongly attached to that, strongly holding that, and we understood even how ascetics, monks, renunciants, even they fight each other, quarrel each other, conflicting each other because of attachment to those views. Unlike the lay people, mostly say attached to the physical things, forms, sights, sounds, smells, tastes. But even the renunciants can get into trouble, quarrels, conflicts because of attachment to views. So it doesn't mean that the lay people does not get into attachment to views. They do. Particularly, even the ones who has renunciated, still they are not free from attachments, clingings. They still go through a different form of attachments. And then we discussed last as the Silabbata Upadana, how we can attach to various rituals, observances, and we think it is correct, true, we have to do, that is my duty. It came from our generation, from our tradition, so I am supposed to do it. And we understood only the ones promoting some wholesomeness in the mind, reducing the unwholesomeness in the mind are the only suitable ones to follow. Everything else has to be discarded. That is the way, the criteria for us to decide what are the rules, rituals, observances which are appropriate to follow. So with that, now we can get into the fourth type of upadana. So that is in a way more subtle. That is called attavada upadana. And we can literally translate it as the clinging to the sense of I. So we individually all feel that I am living, I am this body, I am suffering, I am unhappy, I am worried. So I am a lustful character, I am an angry character. Yesterday we discussed about the characters. So I am an angry character. No, I am a buddhi character. Can add some conceit also then. Buddhi character. Vitakka character. Vitakka charita. So likewise, so we are identifying ourselves. So I am some person, some individual is here available. And based on that we are operating. So Buddha mentioned some teachings about aggregates, 5 aggregates, Rupa aggregate, Vedana aggregate, Sanya aggregate, Sankhara aggregate, Vijnana aggregate. So different kinds of forms. Say different elements, either in the past, present, future. So different kinds of forms. Sight, sound, smells, tastes, tangibles, all are forms. All the physicality belongs to the forms. So that represents our body. So this body comes under the forms. So whatever the other physical things, my car, my house, say my property. So all these physical things comes very large scale, all comes under the form. So we attach to that. And whenever I am telling, okay, I am beautiful, so that means I consider my body is beautiful. And I identify with that. So I am beautiful means, so the body being recognized as I, identified as I. I am tall, I am fat, I am sick. So what is sick? Are you mentally sick or bodily sick? Most probably, say when you get fever, you say I am not well. So where are you identified? Your body, right? But we don't think like that, no? You are not telling my body is sick. Are you capable of doing that? Are you referring that? Doctor, my body is sick. Is the way we are telling to the doctor? Oh, telling doctor I am not feeling well. So that is how we refer, right? I mean, we are used to that way of telling, expressing, unknowingly thinking that this body is me. I have a headache. Then headache belongs to me. So the headache has a relationship to me, right? There is an I, individual, and that individual has a headache. So there's a ownership. So Buddha Therefore, explains in actually the 20 forms, actually per aggregate, 4 forms. Either immediately recognizing form as the self. That means I am sick, I am tall, I am fat. So that means immediately I equal body. So whatever happens to body, okay, I recognize this is I am. So that's the most strongest kind of identification. On the other hand, as I mentioned, kind of a possession. Okay, so this is my car. This is my torch, this is my, say, watch, whatever it is. So you are having some physical thing, kind of a relationship, attachment or rather possession, belonging. So kind of a relationship is there. So still I is available, right? So I am here, to me that belongs. So these are my possessions. So another form. And I own many things. So the possessions, many. And when it is becoming more and more subtle, so there's a large self. To that self, the body belongs. Or the body is one large thing, to that a small self belongs. So these are different variations available. So likewise Buddha talks about Vedana, feelings, then Sanya, perceptions, Sankhara, mental formations, consciousness, Vijnana. So all these different aggregates, time to time we recognize. That is how we express, that is why we live. Even though these are little technical terms, so when you are experiencing different kinds of attachments, you can drill down and see how these recognitions have happened, clingings have happened with respect to a particular aggregate. I'm not telling that it's must to do, but if you like, you can do it and say, that's how Buddha explains here. So these different aggregates, we have kind of a relationship, we own it, we possess it, we think that it belongs to us, or I am part of it. So likewise, we can have different denominations. So in general, overall, therefore Buddha says, Sakkaya Ditti, the self-view generates with respect to these 5 aggregates in 20 different forms. So we are entangled in many different ways, completely entangled this way or that way. Whatever we are thinking, somehow we are being entangled. We have some hooked up to either the Rupa aggregate, either to the Vedana feelings, either to the perceptions, either to the mental formations. So, or distinctly recognize, okay, this is this, this is that. So that is the another activity of Vijnana. So very, very difficult. Like a fish in the water, so we are very much engulfed in this kind of attachments, clingings. So with that, we are expressing our ideas, communicating with others. So we are very much trapped in this Sakkaya Ditti, self-view. So that is an attachment. And there's another subtle form. And even though, say, even one becomes anagami, non-returner, still kind of a sense of I is there. Now suppose if one becomes a Sotapanna, most of you are familiar, so his one privilege is, or the benefit, is that he is rid of this Sakkaya Ditti. That is something known, right? So we are typically memorizing Sakkaya Ditti Vicikicca Silabbata Paramasa. So when one becomes a Sotapanna, so we don't have that Sanyojana. So that is something, a fact that typically people know. So therefore, if we little get on to the different forms of clinging, so that means Ditti Upadana may be not available for a Sotapanna. Then Silabbata Upadana also may not be available for a Sotapanna. So I am promoting Sotapanna. Then this what I have explained, Sakkaya Ditti, the sense of I, the self-view, that also not available for Sotapanna. Then how about Kama Upadana? Still available for Sotapanna. And it is not available for a non-returner. Then what is available for Arahant to remove? If all are gone? There's another subtle form of Attavada Upadana that is called Asmimana. So you have a sense of I. Very interesting story happened during the Buddha's time. One monk called Khemaka. So he's a non-returner, Anagami. And he's leading now very old age, little sick, and he can't now walk. And some other elder monks are sending him a messenger to verify him. Do you have any recognition to any of the aggregates? And he said, no, I don't recognize forms aggregate as I. I don't recognize feelings aggregate as I. I don't recognize perceptions aggregate as I. So likewise he is explaining, I don't identify any of these aggregates as I. But still I feel I. Still I have a sense of I. He's very honest, Anagamis, not like us. So he says, still I have a sense of I. So then the messenger going to the other side and he's explaining. So this monk is telling that he don't identify any of the aggregates as I, but still he still has sense of I. Then again another message come to this Khemaka. So it's very difficult to convince the other group. So he somehow find a walking stick and he went to the other side. And he now explaining. He give a very interesting simile. He say, suppose there is a dirty cloth and you are using different, say in today's terms, different washing powder and applying soap, using water, and somehow you are doing your best way of, cleaning. And once you did the cleaning, but that cloth is really dirty. It has some bad smell. It was on, touched with some kerosene oil. And all these different things dirt was there, and you were washing somehow. Now it is fully cleaned. Now he is telling, is it completely cleaned? Clean, but kind of bad smell is still available. So likewise, even though you don't have any particular identification to any particular aggregate, still the sense of I coming, generating, you can't understand exactly from where it is coming. So that bad smell is still available, even to a non-returner. And later he mentioned, okay, you have to put that clean cloth onto a kind of a box which is more scented and keep it for a long time, then only that bad smell will be removed. So likewise, even to a non-returner, there is a sense of I. So typically the Pali term referred is Asmimana, the conceit I am. So that is very much the center point, how we do, how we measure, how we refer, how we relate ourselves with the others. Here I am, here you are, there you are. That's very much our center point. Based on that, whole languages are developed. Now, there's another interesting incident happened. Venerable Ananda explaining Dhamma to the other monks. So he say how he being taught by another senior monk called Venerable Punnamantani Putta. That means Venerable Ananda, when he is ordaining, Venerable Punnamantaniputta was an elder monk, already an arahant. And Venerable Ananda, with a lot of gratitude, he explained at a later time to other fellow monks, when I get ordained as a young monk, Navaka, novice monk, Venerable Punnamantaniputta was very helpful to me. And he has given a very interesting advice to me. Upadaya avaso ananda asmiti hoti no anupadaya. Venerable Ananda, the sense of I am happens with respect to some form of clinging. When there is a presence of some sort of clinging, then only the conceit I am happens, not without it. Kincha upadaya. Attachment to what? Holding on to what? Grasping what? Rupang upadaya asmiti hoti no anupadaya. Either one has to have some attachment, clinging, grasping to the forms, then the feeling of I can arise. Either the mind has to be attached to the different forms of feelings, then the sense of I can arise. Either the attachment to different forms of perceptions has to happen, then the feeling of I arise. There could be an attachment grasping to the different forms of formations has to happen, then the sense of I happens. Similarly, the consciousness has to happen, then the sense of I happens. So here also he gave a very interesting simile, Venerable Punnamantaniputta, which is quite straightforward, and he say, suppose there's a person, maybe a young person, either man, woman, so he likes to live beautifully, likes to beautify himself, and he go closer to a mirror and to a very clean water or shiny surface, and there immediately you refer, here I am. Oh, I am beautiful. There's a little scar here, maybe pimple. So immediately the sense of I generates. So you get striked, right? So previously there was no that kind of reference. So you go in front of a mirror and immediately the sense of I happens. So Venerable Punnamantaniputta mentioned like that. Whenever the attachment, grasping happens to the forms, then the sense of I arise. Feelings, I arise. Attachment to feelings, grasping, I arise. So likewise, if there is no grasping, that means can't have the sense of I. That's the other side we can understand. So if we need to have a sense of I, that means as a prerequisite, we have to have some sort of grasping. Now, actually, Buddha mentioned, so certain other ascetics also sometimes described about different kinds of attachments, different kinds of graspings. Sometimes they, of course, can explain about the Kama Upadana, which is quite obvious, but not the other three. Sometimes they are capable of explaining Kama Upadana plus Ditthi Upadana, not other two. And sometimes even they are capable of explaining Kama Upadana, Ditthi Upadana, and even Silabbata Upadana, but not the other one. So none of them can explain this last one, which is called the Attavada Upadana. So that is the finding of the Buddha. So you being attached to the sense of I, as an individual, as a person, is something available, deeply rooted. So that's why even the others, say other religious groups, they can understand, okay, this when mind grasps certain sensual desires, okay, mind feel heavy, crowded, so I better leave it aside. So they renunciate. Possible. People are doing it. Not only the Buddhists. And it's available, that kind of renunciation available. So likewise, even the other two, probably, if they are quite capable, skillful, then available, but not the last one. So therefore, Buddha mentioned, so this Attavada Upadana is something specific that very, very subtle, available in the mind, deeply rooted, and you have to recognize that very carefully. Now we have understood all different forms of Upadana, different forms of grasping. Now we need to discuss how to remove that. Not only the last one, all the 4 different kinds of Upadana, graspings, how to remove. Now, if I immediately come to the typical, our general practice, Satipatthana practice. So again and again, Buddha reiterate, so if one practices Satipatthana, one end result is Anissitocha vihirati nachakinchi loke upadiyati. So either you practice Kayanupassana, either you practice Vedananupassana, either you practice Chittanupassana, either you practice Dhammanupassana, you got to reach this state. And Kayanupassana itself has many different forms of practices, but this has to be a common result. This is a common result. It doesn't matter, either you practice Anapanasati, either you practice Dhatu Manasikara, either you practice Iriyapata. Different forms of practices are there, even with respect to Kayanupassana. It doesn't matter, but one important result is that your mind to be free from all different associations, not clinging to anything in the world. At least temporarily you should experience it. On top of that, while keeping that as a base, further you need to develop. That's another stage. But during the experience, during the practice, as you are continuing, as you are progressing, so that sort of experience should be possible. Should be available in Vedananupassana, should be available in Chittanupassana, should be available in Dhammanupassana. So therefore, in the Satipatthana practice, actually what we do is we develop some amount of mindfulness and we develop some amount of concentration, and based on that, so we are trying to focus our attention to various phenomena, either the bodily phenomena or feelings or various mental states. So we are observing them, and particularly how they are arising and passing away. Samudaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Vihirati, Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Vihirati, Samudaya Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Vihirati. So likewise, again and again, Buddha explains. So we are seeing how they are rising, how they are passing away. On certain other suttas, Buddha mentioned Upadana khandesu udayabhyanupassino vihirato upadane patikkulanyata santati. So if one is practicing like this, seeing how things are rising and passing away, either with respect to body, either with respect to feelings, either with respect to perceptions, mental formations, consciousness, whatever it is, so you feel unattached to them. You feel the upadana, the clinging, be a burden. So you are not interested further about it. You feel that there is a way of living without attachment, without grasping, without holding, without adhering. So the practice, in a way, helps us to have a different way of looking at it. That means, so you are coming to a conclusion, okay, these graspings are a bit troublesome. Previously, grasping becomes your nature. Without grasping, you can't stay. Later, as a result of the practice, it changes, and then mind says, grasping is a burden. I want to be free. So mind is telling, not I. And on the other hand, so this is with respect to Satipatthana. So it has also, long practice. I am just telling with two, three sentences, but it's a lifetime practice. Say you are practicing Kayanupassana, Anapanasati, you first establish your mindfulness on breathing, and say you recognize how long, short, and all these things, and you are developing sampajanya, clear comprehension. So all these different stages are there. And now slowly you are able to recognize even subtle characteristics, how they are arising, how they are changing, how they are disappearing. So mind is very carefully observing all these different changes, arises, passes away. All these things are developing some form of understanding, wisdom in the mind. And ultimately, so mind become disinterested, disenchanted, not interested about this whole process. It become kind of detached from the whole thing. As a result of that, slowly it relinquishes, lets go of, and become free. So it may be a temporary state for the time being, but one has to recognize that. One has to understand, okay, I was observing these different phenomena, and they were very subtle, they were rising and passing away very quick, quite impermanent, and constantly subjected to the oppression of this kind of impermanent nature, quite suffering, unsatisfactory, can't expect satisfaction from this sort of a process, and beyond my control. So some amount of understanding about the three universal characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, now developing in you as a result of observation. Now when it is grown to some extent, now time to time mind get released. Not interested about this process, now mind get released. Now one needs to notice it, recognize that release. And once it is released, so one has to dwell there, be there, experience that release. Not again jumping and trying to purposefully observe, rather the resultant of the observation has to be experienced. In a way, has to be enjoyed. Then only you become then only the mind is capable of living in another level where it is not necessary to have any association. Not necessary to have any holding, any grasping, any attachment, any clinging. Without grasping, without clinging, without association, now mind is capable of living, experiencing. Anissitocha vihirati nachakinchi loke upadiyati. Again and again Buddha highlights. So therefore, we can say, if one is doing with respect to Kayanupassana, it is possible. You can free all the sensual, say, attachments by Kayanupassana. Say, if you are doing the same thing, probably you can free different Ditti Upadana, the graspings to various views, using Kayanupassana. Say, Silabbata Upadana. Possible, maybe using Kayanupassana. Because what you are developing is not limited to that, even though you are using body as the reference, as the object. So that knowledge what you are gaining is now you can apply to various other forms of grasping. It is not only limited now to the body. Now you can apply it even to the Vedana. You may be even naturally shift into those states. Now you are experiencing, observing different types of feelings, how they are rising, passing away. You are experiencing how mind sometimes grasps certain perceptions. So he's like that, he's like this. So the certain perceptions we grasp, and we think they are permanent, that is true, that is correct. So instead of holding that, probably you can understand, okay, this is a perception. And sometimes different mental formations. Lust is available, anger available, jealousy available. So rather than telling that I am an angry person, oh, this is anger available. Rather than telling, okay, I am a lustful person, I am jealous. Jealousy available, anger available, lust available. They are defilements in a way, mental formations. So now we are looking things in a different way. Rather than identifying with them, we are trying to look at them objectively. Now we are no more recognizing them as I am, rather we see they as they are. Or trying to see them as they truly are. Love is love, hate is hate, entanglement is entanglement, hatred is hatred, jealousy is jealousy. It is not my jealousy, oh I am jealous, it is jealousy. So likewise, now you are looking them all in a proper form. Likewise, you are continuing. As a result of such practice, you can slowly fade away all these different defilements. And Satipatthana practice itself is capable of making oneself free from all the three fetters, what we discussed, Sakkaya Ditthi Vicikicca Silabbata Paramas, and then even taking one to the one's returnal level, non-returnal level, even to the arahantship. So all four Satipatthanas are quite capable means, Ekayana Magga, to give a complete methodology to free from different forms of these graspings. And not only that, different methods are there. So I just want to highlight different methods, because Buddha mentioned different methods, practices that one can undertake. So there is another sutta I like to highlight. One time the king of the gods, Sakka, come and ask a question from the Buddha. He says, Bhante, this people are practicing, monks are practicing. One is getting enlightened, one is attaining Nibbana, but others are not attaining Nibbana. Why? So Sakka also asks very interesting questions, right? Then Buddha mentioned, Santiko Devanaminda Chakku Viññaya Rupa Ittha Kanta Manapa Riya Rupa Kamupa Sanghita Rajaniya Tanche Bhikkhu Abhinandati Abhivadati Ajjosaya Tittati Tang Nisitang Viññānaṁ Hoti Tang Upadānaṁ Saupadāno Devanaminda Bhikkhu No Parinibbayati. So what Buddha mentioned is, they are the God, these different interesting forms are there. They are quite desirable, itta, they are quite lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, tantalizing. You can remember these different, how we get attracted. They are desirable, they are really lovely, agreeable, pleasing, sensually enticing, and tantalizing. Pretty trapped. So we liked, because all these inherent qualities are there in those things, right? They are pleasing, tantalizing, beautiful, lovely. So what happens? Tanche bhikkhu abhinandati abhivadati ajjosaya tittati. So as a result of that, you being delighted with it. You are attracted to that, then you being delighted with it, and you welcome it, and then you are strongly holding it, you adhere to that. Abhinandati abhivadati ajjosaya tittati. And as a result of that, now the consciousness established there, it is there now. Tan nisitang viññānaṁ hoti tang upadānaṁ. Now the consciousness is clinging, grasping that. Saupadāno devānaminda no parinibbayati. Now consciousness is attached to that, holding that, grasping that. Then what? Saupadāno devānaminda bhikkhu no parinibbayati. If consciousness is attached, holding, grasping to something, that can't attain Nibbana. So at your death moment, so where are you going to keep your consciousness? Can you have a plan right now? So if your consciousness attached to forms, say you remember your house, you build it with lot of effort, spend millions, today billions, Can you leave it while you are dying? Can you say your consciousness may not attach to that form, your land, your house, beautiful house? How about your car? So many things are there for us to attach, right? So whenever our mind get attached to that, so it is holding that, grasping that, it is established there, can't attain Nibbana. Simple as that. So if suppose there is a strong pain, suffering, cancer, strong pain, and you are struggling, fighting against that, why it happened to me, why it happened to me, holding that, now you even blame others, hate others. Where are your consciousness established? Feeling. Can you attain Nibbana? So you can see the depth, you can see, these are the things that we need to reveal from the Dhamma. So why we are constantly traveling in this samsara? So the solution has to come before death. So you have to find a solution before death. So how to keep the mind free from attachment, free from grasping, free from holding things, without allowing consciousness to establish before death. So we need to practice. It may not happen immediately. You can't, even though you know Dhamma, even though you have heard these things, you can't tell your consciousness to not to do it. And you can see, it is not only the death moment, even today, even now, if you are attached to something and you feel burdened, you feel unhappy, you feel tight, you feel, stressed. And even to feel that, you need to have some kind of mindfulness. That's the problem. Now, when people are holding, they feel happy. That's the problem, no? So that you are attached to something and you are holding that. Through that, you being delighted. You are further holding and you feel delighted. So you don't think that attachment generates unhappiness, stress or burden. Instead, we think, okay, holding, grasping generates kind of a delight, and it too have some sort of a delight, and we are continuing. That's why, as we are continuing the practice, mind starts feeling difficult to bear. Mind become more and more sensitive. Now it can't bear grasping. It feels burdened when it is grasping. When it is strongly holding to something, it feels a little tight, burdened. Then naturally mind wants to release it. So this has to happen. So that's why Buddha mentioned in that Nagita Sutta, Upadana kandesu udyabhyanupassino viharato upadane patikulyata santhati. So when one is continuing the practice, so when one see again and again this arising and passing away of different aggregates, so the clinging becomes impossible. You don't like clinging. You don't prefer the clung mind, grasped mind. It feels more heavy. It feels more gross. Because you have experienced a released state of mind, more lighter state of mind, unattached state of mind, more simplified state of mind, unentangled state of mind. So with respect to that, the grasped state of mind feels more burdened, heavy. So that means through our practice we need to come to that non-grasping state, unentangled state, simplified state, unconstructed state, and we need to experience that. We need to recognize that, we need to appreciate that, we need to dwell in that. Then only we can understand, okay, I was in a wrong place. I was in a grasping state, burdened state. Now only I understood, okay, why can't I stay like this? So likewise, the practice is leading us to that sort of a direction where the mind becomes more and more interested of non-grasping. then the letting go process, renunciation, or what you call the relinquishment, become more and more a natural request coming from the mind. And the opposite side is again mentioned Buddha to the god Sakka, the opposite side. That means there are interesting things, there are lovable things, desirable things, agreeable things, pleasing things, sensually enticing things, tantalizing things, but Tanche bhikkhu nabhinandati nabhivatati najjosaya tittati. So this particular practitioner is now not finding delight in them and not welcoming that and not adhere to that, not going into that. So sometimes practitioners are experience that, isn't it? Say you are walking, you are doing your walking practice. Assume that immediately a beautiful butterfly being seen. So can't you simply keep your awareness with yourself or even unestablished? Suppose you are now capable and you are simply walking and you are in a more relaxed state of mind, no grasping, your mind is very clear, nothing is trembling in the mind, nothing is clouded in the mind, the clarity of the mind is available. While being that, say a beautiful picture, beautiful butterfly being seen, then what happens? Are you going and clinging to that, grasping that, or are you maintaining that clarity of mind? You can do it, right? An experienced practitioner can do it. It naturally happens. It is not that he purposely doing it. But now mind feels not interested about it. Even though the mind recognizes, okay, this is a butterfly, this is a monkey, this is so and so, it is beautiful, this is a waterfall, whatever it is. But the clarity of mind remains. So that's why the advice to Bahya Daruchirya, Ditte Dittamattam Bhavissati, what you have seen is just seen. Sute Sutamattam Bhavissati, what you have heard is just heard. Mute Mutamattam Bhavissati, what you have sensed through your nose, tongue, body is just sensed. That's it. Viññāte viññātamattam bhavissati. There may be different thoughts coming to your mind, that's it. But you are not entangled, you are unentangled, you are released, you are maintaining the clarity of mind, unattached nature of the mind, unassociated nature of the mind. So you can do it. So some people are even doing it. Even today some were talking, okay, things are there, but you are not interested. Mind prefer to stay alone, secluded, unattached. So then what happens? Buddha mentioned, then na tang nisitang viññānaṁ hoti. If you are able to maintain that kind of a state, then the consciousness is not associating that. What you have seen, what you have heard, what you have sensed, what the thought, consciousness is not attached to that, not established there. Na tang nisitang viññānaṁ hoti, na tang upadānaṁ. So consciousness is not grasping that. Anupadāno devānaminda bhikkhu parinibbāyati. So if the mind is not grasping, attaching, then that mind attains nibbāna. Not that difficult, no? So if you are able to maintain that kind of state of mind, maybe if sudden death happen, attain nibbāna. Can we say like that? Not that easy. There's another little problem there. That's called asavas. So that's why yesterday we discussed, even though we have samadhi, even though we have seclusion, still the mind has the potential to generate kind of an attachment, still not free. So certain tendencies are available in the mind, asavas are available in the mind. Even though the mind is currently free, still there's a risk of getting attached.
At the moment of death?
Anytime. Maybe at the moment of death, maybe even before that, anytime. So the risk is available. So because the potential is still available. So the practice has to be further and further developed till all these tendencies, all these potentials are all faded off. That's why it's taking time. By the way, first of all, we need to come to that the first stage where we experiencing kind of release state of mind, at least temporary, say 1 minute at least, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, kind of a release state of mind. At least temporary, no attachments, temporary, no graspings. Then you recognize, okay, mind can stay like that. Mind doesn't want any establishment or established kind of a base, kind of a substrata. It's not necessary. Mind can simply maintain kind of a buoyancy. So that is something has to be experienced by the yogis as a result of the systematic practice. So once it is available, you need to encourage that. We need to notice it. We need to appreciate that. And remember, this is the place we all miss. If Buddha was not there, we can't appreciate it. In a way, I don't know, it is my personal understanding, very unlikely that we ourselves would appreciate that. Because there is no I, there is no sense of I at that state. So the Buddha's teaching, Buddha's encouragement help us to give some prominence to that, some notice to that. Even though it appears like boring, so we are sort of encouraged to just dwell there, spend some time there. Otherwise, simply get up. What the hell is this? I feel bored. No encouragement, no happiness, no excitement. I better walk. I better put my attention to breath. What the hell of just doing nothing? Just be. What's the point? That's what the mind will tell. But the Buddha, on the other hand, he encourages. Just dwell there, just be there, don't do anything. So just be. The shortest instruction. Most difficult. So, and another interesting point, how we are constantly being delighted by different beautiful things. Either it may be forms, feelings, perceptions and all these things, and whenever we become sort of attached to that, established there, delighted with it, and welcoming it, adhere to it. So as a result of that, so we grasped it and we become someone. We are having a birth to a new state, and that is the bhava. Upadana paccaya bhavo, that means kind of a becoming process. So always we have kind of a desire, I want to become. Currently I am not happy, I want to become this, I want to become that. Kind of an unsatisfactoriness. Internally little bit of unsatisfaction is available, so I want that. Only if I have that, I will be happy. Suppose you are having that, then you are grasping that, enjoying that, you are born to that. So that is the state of bhava, the becoming. And then the all rest of series of patissamuppada following. So again and again we are getting to this cycle, the rebirth cycle. So we can maybe experience it momentarily onto a particular incident, and at large onto another life. So the same principle you can apply either to the next moment, either to the next incident, or even at large either to the next life. But if one is not doing that attachment, if one is not continuing that delight, getting delighted, adherence, welcoming, rather one feels detached, secluded, not interested. So that kind of thing, if one can maintain, that means you are not continuing in this accumulations of different aggregates. Now they become fading off. They are losing apart. So they detached. They are there, but you are not interested. Mind is not interested. So if one can do it, so that means now later your practice actually changes. Previously it is very much like purposeful practice, deliberate practice, effortful practice. Now one has recognized, okay, the mind can stay at least some time without attachment, without grasping, without holding on to things. Let me be there. Let me dwell there. So while you are there, you are simply with a relaxed atmosphere, you are observing what now mind is doing. And you may even question, why mind can't stay like this? Why it go again and again and grasp? Now say you, as a result of your practice, you were able to come to a level that mind is not grasping. Say 15 minutes. Then why after 15 minutes go and grasp? So these are the ways that we need to investigate, right? So our mind, we need to investigate. Say you catch a leech and put on the pillow. So why can't it stay there? And pillow is more beautiful, no? More pleasant. You can put some scent also there. Why that is again jumping and go to the mud? So why? So that indicates the latent tendencies in our mind. So even though it can stay for say 15 minutes, half an hour unattached, but slowly it go and latch onto something, lean onto something, attach to something, even to a samadhi, even to a concentrated state. So don't think the concentrated state is completely free from attachment. So that's why we need to be very relaxed, very careful, delicate, balance has to be maintained. Then only you can see how mind is behaving. Very subtle practice in a way. So that is where Buddha mentioned, now your practice has to be oriented towards seclusion. Viveka Nissitang. So you prefer seclusion. It is not that you are asking all your family members to go away and you need to be alone. It is not that. The mind prefers seclusion. And you are promoting seclusion. Living alone. Mind being alone. Being free. But if mind naturally go and attach, you prefer seclusion. Not being attached, not being holding, not being latched onto something, lean onto something, but just secluded, being alone. Viveka Nissitang. Then Viraga Nissitang. Say, not interested, dispassionate towards the events. There's an invitation coming for a party, not interested. Maybe interested sight, not interested. Beautiful sound, not interested. Dispassionate. Viraga Nissitang. Then Nirodha Nissitang. So living in that cessation, not experiencing ups and downs, say wobblings, just staying, and no eye formations, and slowly fading off the craving. So basically, the Nirodha has different actually explanations. One can say a rising and passing away, that passing away side you are promoting, that is one aspect. More than that, so without forming a sense of I, You have stopped. Mind has stopped. Rather than running, we were constantly in a race. How about stopping now? Where are you running? To the next election? We are constantly running, right? So we all have something to do. Now we are waiting. When this sermon going to end? Something is there for you to do, right? So I have something important to do. When this monk is going to finish this? So I have something to do. Yeah, still have some running mind. So when are we going to stop? When you feel that I am done. Nothing else to do. So only an arahant can do like that. I mean, nothing else is done. Nothing else is need to be done. Kata karaniyo. Whatever thing has to be done, he has done. That's it. Nothing else. So we still have something to do. So tomorrow I am planning to go back to Nissarana. Tomorrow morning there's a Dhamma sermon. Still some things, there are more projects. And Bhante Dhammaji were planning to, already met the minister, now he's planning the next event of Satipasala. Many projects. They are running. Going on to from this event to the next event to the next event. Constantly running. So when are we going to give some rest to the mind? So when through the practice, mind found kind of a restful state, what are you doing? What are you supposed to do? Please ask these questions. Say you are coming as a result of your practice. Say you are coming to a situation, your mind come to a state, stopped. So you feel like stopped. Now what are you going to do? Then you are asking, Bhante, what's next? What am I supposed to do next? And you feel, in the best form, in the perfect situation, so you have to be happy. You have done. So mind has come back home. So you were idling, you were, roaming here and there. Say mind was finding out kind of a satisfaction, looking forward for some satisfaction, searching happiness, getting frustrated, getting burned. Ultimately, he came back home. Now what are you supposed to do? Stay at home. Just maintain, just stay at home. But we don't feel that, no? We feel unsatisfied. We feel unfulfilled. We feel not complete. We feel that, there may be something more available, something more to do. There may be something lacking. So that is the formations. That is the delusion. That is the Mara trying to tempt us. Promoting, doing, not staying, not being. So just being, very, very difficult. Not doing anything, very, very difficult. So through the practice, once you are able to recognize that, try to be. Just be. Don't stress yourself. Don't encourage anything else. Just enjoy inner silence. Just enjoy stillness. And then that is the Nirodha. Just be. Just enjoy complete stillness. No formations. Viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassagga parinaming. And always maturing in release. The whole practice leading to release. So maturing in release. So you are doing various things. Where the end? Release. Kind of emptiness. No attachments. Mind is released. Freedom. But we are not enjoying freedom. We don't know how to enjoy freedom. Be in freedom. Dwell in freedom. Our mind have a lot of inertia coming rather momentum, always running, always asking this, that, doing, and once we come to the stop, or suppose now, suppose you are participating on a race, and assume it is 200 meters. With lot of effort, you are running, you come to the end. Then you can't stop. You are again keep on running because you are used to run. So like in samsara, we are running from this life to that life to this, and even this, from our childhood, then young age, youth, this, that, this, running. Through the practice you come to a complete stop, still want to run. When are we going to stop? When we feel enough, when we think, okay, this is it, I am there, I am at home, let me enjoy, let me take a rest, have a ginger tea, maybe black tea, just enjoy. So maturing in release, so mind is released. So all the practice taking us to the release, maturing in release, and once it is released, if we are not being there, if we don't know how to be there, then we are lost. So therefore, Buddha mentioned in different ways, so you have to further practice, of course, but viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. You are developing mindfulness, but more in a relaxed manner. It is not that you are purposely, deliberately, effortfully doing mindfulness. Rather, it becomes more effortless mindfulness. You may be time to time investigating, but more effortless, more relaxed. And due to the, as an investigation, what are you expecting? Maturing in release. Expecting the release. So you may be doing a little bit of investigation, expecting what? Expecting release. And once released, what are you going to do? Just be. Just stopped. So with respect to Bojjhanga, all the Bojjhangas, Buddha therefore mentions. Sati sambojjhangam bhavete viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. Dhammavichaya sambojjhangam bhavete viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. So in this Upadana Sutta, Buddha talks with respect to the Noble Eightfold Path. He mentioned, Ime sankho bhikkhave chatunnang upadananang abhiññāya pariññāya parikkhayaaya pahanāya ariyo attangiko maggo bhave tabbo. Monks, in order to have direct knowledge about these four groups, four types of clinging, graspings, in order to have full understanding about them, in order to have utter destruction of these graspings, in order to abandon all these graspings, ariyo attangiko maggo bhave tabbo. The Noble Eightfold Path has to be developed. How? Sammadittim bhaveti viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. Samma sankappo bhaveti viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. Each and every noble factor Buddha repeats, telling viveka nisitang, viraga nisitang, nirodha nisitang, vassaga parinaming. So this is something that we have missed in a way. We will keep practicing, never knowing how to stop, how to dwell, how to be, how to simply look, how to be at home. So therefore, ultimately, in order to overcome all these different forms of clinging, so we have to come to this type of practice. You are practicing more inclined towards seclusion and more into dispassion, more into stilling formations, and maturing in release, dwelling in release, or delving in emptiness. And these are the things actually I like to mention. So all these things actually tell us that these graspings are something that we are continuously going through, and as a result of that we being burdened, we being suffering again and again. Now it's a time to have a methodology, a practice to understand that, recognize that, and ultimately let go of all things. And coming to a release, enjoying such release, be in that release, and one day, at this moment, be released. Not grasping, not associating anything. So basically it is not that we practice now and attain non-grasping state future. We practice now and experiencing non-grasping state now. So the practice is now. At right now, if there is grasping available in the mind, so we should notice it. The mindfulness will tell us, okay, there is grasping, there's burden, you feel frustrated, you feel unhappy. Grasping is available. So the mindfulness will indicate that. Now it is your duty to relinquish it, abandon it, let it go, and then be free. Dwell in freedom, be in stillness. That's it. Okay, with that I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon, and thank you very much for attentive listening.